Austin Faith Dialogue at the Crossroads of Religion and Life, a series highlighting the cultural and social interactions with the worshiping and religious communities in and around the capital city. Austin Faith Dialogue is brought to you by the Austin Area Interreligious Ministries in cooperation with KNVA. Join us now for Austin Faith Dialogue.
Thank you for being with us in Austin Faith Dialogue. I'm Carl Gronberg, host of the program. In many faith communities, life is affirmed, from beginning of life to the end of life, through the seasons of life. The ancient scriptures say, for everything there is a season and a time for every matter under heaven. And in some faith communities, we light candles to remember those who claim God's promise of grace. On this edition, this program of Austin Faith Dialogue, we're going to talk about validation of life, particularly life for those of us who become senior adults and what it means and how we experience that affirmation, that validation. Susie Peterson, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
House of Friends.
Yes.
I said it. Yay, I
Yes,
said it.
you have it right.
And Don Lakasamy.
Right.
Lakasamy.
You got
Oh,
it right.
Eva Church is going to be so proud of me, you know. Oh, Don, I've been working on that because Peterson, that just comes off my tongue.
It just rolls
That
off,
rolls
right?
off. It's a good Scandinavian name, but Lakasamy, I had to work on that. You tell your husband.
I will.
I made it.
He's going to be watching. So.
Well, I enjoyed talking to you before we came on the set.
Yes,
And now I
yes.
want you to share with our Austin Faith Dialogue viewing audience some of the things that you are about. House of Friends. Susie, your congregation started this. And
Yes.
What is the House of Friends?
Well, the House of Friends is a respite program. It is designed as a time away for caregivers to have time away from loved ones who have memory losses. So it is a dementia respite program. It meets 1 day a week for 4 hours from 9:30 in the morning until 1:30 in the afternoon. We have a whole cadre of things that come off from that. We do some outreach visitation to individuals that are housebound, that no longer can come to our program. We touch base with the caregivers, and in our 4-hour period on Thursday, we have a variety of different activities that support clients that have memory losses.
So the clients with memory loss come there to your congregation for
Yes.
4 hours, and they come there to give respite to their caregivers. They come
Yeah.
there to play games. No?
Well,
They come there
Socialize. I think
to socialize.
socialization's a big
Yes,
part of it. You know,
yes.
being in a place where they feel they have their peers, they feel comfortable.
right.
And Don, you know something about these caregivers when Susie mentioned that, because you work with caregivers,
Yes,
is that
I
right?
do.
Tell us about that.
Well, I'm a licensed clinical social worker, so I do a lot of work not only with the caregivers, but with the people that they're caring for in a variety of ways. Medicare does cover counseling and therapy for things like depression, anxiety, and even the stress of caregiving. But I can also work with the person with dementia. There are things that can be done with the person with dementia. Not the traditional kinds of talk therapy, but other things.
And we want to talk about some of those other things, but you know, what happens to us? Susie, I'm going to come back to you if I may,
Yes.
and we're going to go back and forth like this,
Sure.
because this
Okay.
is very fascinating and exciting to me, because as a parish pastor, I see these seasons of life,
Right.
and then I see people become experiencing dementia and Alzheimer's, and the families around them and all that goes on and the dynamics of that.
Right.
And you live that, Susie. Tell our
Yes,
viewing audience about
yes.
that.
Well, actually, in 1994, my parents began to decline in health. And my father was about 80 years old and had had a very vital life.
He had been
And
a dentist.
He was a dentist, a retired periodontist, and often with elderly there becomes a catastrophic event that spirals them downward. And in my father's case, that first event was he broke his hip and had to have some care. And so that was the beginning of him having more difficulty with his health, which really focused into Parkinson's disease. So he was having a lot of trouble getting around, and at that same time my mother began to have gaps. She didn't know the phone number. She couldn't call me anymore. She'd say, tell me your phone number and I'll give you a call back. And it was suspicious, but yet
Easy
know.
to explain away,
yes,
isn't it?
Yes,
Yeah.
it was easy to explain away. And so I filed it away. But other things, there was less confidence in her. A close friend had passed away, and I was a long-distance caregiver. My parents lived in Michigan, and my mother would have thought nothing of jumping on a plane and going someplace. But at this point, she said, I will go if you fly from Texas up to Michigan and meet me, and then we'll go together.
See, what I think is interesting now, and I'm going to interrupt you just
Yeah.
that you also have other caregiving concerns. You have a brother who has some
Yes.
needs also.
And my parents at that time were taking care of their son, my brother, who has schizophrenia, and he was diagnosed with that when he was 15. So there has been a chronic caregiving really in our family for a long time.
1994, when
Right.
this started happening.
Yes.
Okay, Dawn, let's bring you in now as a person who deals with caregivers. If you
Right.
heard this type of story, and Susie's story is unique because it's her story, but
Right.
there are others like this who have similar caregiving. What
That's
happens to people who are caught in that situation?
As caregivers, well, it can be very overwhelming, depending on the needs of the person who needs care, and typically there's one person who's identified as the primary caregiver. And if that's an elderly spouse, as it was in your mother's case,
Yes, that is
the
case.
overwhelming stress that she was under may have been part of what Susie accepted as an explanation for some of her memory loss.
Exactly.
Mom's under a great deal of stress and she's trying to take care of dad, and it would stand to reason that she can't remember my telephone number.
Exactly, and that is, in a sense, how you try to explain it and make sense of it.
Right, exactly.
And
Is there also denial in there too?
well, there is a denial in the sense that an individual tries to make sense of it in their own way when they begin to lose their memory.
Right.
And they begin to hide things in certain ways to mask it, but it's not done intentionally.
No, it's not.
And often that becomes a problem, is the family thinks they're masking their problem, but
Right.
it's a way for them to cope.
It is
And
a
there's
way
a
to cope.
change of dynamics. Roles are being changed. And tell the story about your mother when you went there for those 3 days. And,
Yes.
well, she wouldn't talk to you for 3 days, is that right?
Well, so the continuation is my father declined in health. He declined physically. My mother began to decline mentally. And it started with that, I don't remember your phone number, to apprehensions. She thought that people were stealing things from around the house.
Right. So you
So-
started to notice something that you couldn't really explain away very
Right.
well anymore.
And I said, well, I'm going to come to visit. And so, again, a way that they really tried to contain it, my folks said, no, you can't come. We're too busy. Well, how busy could they really be?
Right.
But
They
when-
don't want you to come, do they?
But they're still in charge, right? And
But
as
they
the
were- and
dutiful
so
daughter,
I said, I won't come, but I had 2 young children and I can come on spring break. So when I came, that was when I saw clear things. My mother did not know where to buy film. She had been an executive secretary and she had a computer, but she couldn't remember how to type.
right. So you
So-
when you saw it firsthand, that's when you realized there's something more going on here.
Right. But
Yeah.
then how to act.
Right.
So as a family member, not clear on all the principles of dementia, I said, well, I'll call the Area Agency on Aging. And I called a number of support personnel, but I was a long-distance caregiver. And I went back home to Texas.
Right.
And trying to put together what to do next. And then my mother had another acute problem where she got very confused. And that was the beginning of finding out her diagnosis of Alzheimer's disease.
Don, this process, the progression for someone like Susie, who is obviously a fine daughter,
Right.
loved by her parents,
Right.
and yet to be able to help them to move, and here's that word, validation.
Right.
There is a workshop coming up in Austin
Right.
this month that deals with this whole idea of validation.
Right.
Don, tell us a little bit about not only the workshop, which will be November 14th,
That's correct.
but tell us a little bit about the whole concept of validation, because I think that's one of the things that Susie had to go through.
Yes.
And I would imagine in the
Exactly.
House of Friends, and we'll want to talk about what you do at the House of Friends here in Austin with that whole concept of validation. But
Yes.
what is
Right.
validation?
Well, validation is a communication technique to be able to communicate in a meaningful way with people with dementia and Alzheimer's disease. Alzheimer's is a type of dementia. It was developed by a woman by the name of Naomi Feil, and she's a social worker. And it basically, it teaches us to go where the person with dementia is. Go to their reality. Don't try to bring them into our reality. Validate their feelings. Validate whatever they are trying to tell you. Let them know that you're listening to them with empathy and respect. Many times we can mirror their emotion. With people with dementia, they are very in tune with your body language and your tone of voice.
Very much so.
So
Yes.
if you can match their body language and their tone of voice and modulate your own tone of voice, you can sometimes calm them down. And to understand also that all behavior has meaning, so that if you see your mother stuffing newspapers under sofa cushions, she's
Yes.
really not stuffing newspapers under sofa cushions. In her mind's eye, maybe she's putting laundry away in the dresser drawers. When I used to work at a nursing home,
Oh, let's stop right there,
Okay.
okay? When you would see something like that, putting newspapers like
Right.
that, and for her reality, it would be putting away the laundry.
right, that's right.
What you're saying then in validation, Susie, is what? What you're saying to that person, if you see that, you're going to say, hey, wait a minute, what are you doing?
Well, actually, that would be a good question to ask.
Right.
We want to ask what, we want to ask where,
Exactly.
how, when. We want to stay away from why questions. So instead of saying, why are you stuffing newspapers under the sofa, you might say, Mom, what are you doing? And then Mom might tell you, well, I'm putting these things away.
Oh, say that again, Don. I think stay away from the why. Why are you doing this?
Right.
Because what is the problem with the word why?
Why asks them to explain what they may not really be able to explain. So if you challenge...
It's true with all of us,
Yes.
you know.
So if you challenge them, in her mind's eye, she's not stuffing newspaper under a sofa cushion. She may be, as I said, putting laundry away. So if you say to her, why are you stuffing newspaper under the sofa cushion, you might get a variety of reactions: anger, maybe fear, because she can't understand why you don't see that she's putting laundry away. So we stay away from the why questions and stick with the other. And you may get, a fascinating, wonderful answer.
That's right. And enjoy the answer.
Exactly.
Because you want to be enjoying that person.
Right, where they are.
I had a great example of that with my mother. In her early stages of Alzheimer's, we brought caregivers into the home, and this was in Michigan. I was a long-distance caregiver, and that was the only way at the time, we could manage having some help. And my mother complained that people were stealing cider. And in Michigan, in the fall, cider is one of the
It's like liquid
delicacy.
gold.
Yeah, liquid
Yes,
gold, like
and
pecans in Texas.
She
gold.
said, someone has stolen my cider. Well, you know, you want to laugh at something like
Right.
that, but it was perplexing what had happened to it.
Right.
So I was at one of those visits, I was just walking around the house, and she had taken the cider, and it had been hidden behind the piano.
She was protecting it.
And she was protecting it because she knew people or strangers were coming into her house, some paid caregivers, and she was protecting it.
Beautiful.
but had forgotten that she was
She-
But had
protecting it.
forgotten.
She valued that.
Yes.
And
yes.
that was something very important to her. And
So when you found the cider,
I didn't say, "Oh, Mom, why did you do that?" Well, I didn't know all the validation
Right.
principles at that time. I said, "Wow, look, I found your cider."
let's have
Yes.
something to drink.
Yes, exactly.
Well, it was been there a week, so that we
Oh,
couldn't.
oh.
But those are similar types of things. She didn't do that on purpose.
Right, right.
And it wasn't my role to chastise her or get angry with her.
Right.
If I was basing her in reality, I would have said, "What? Why'd you
Why-
do that?"
why did you
put
do
the
that? Yeah, that's
cider
right.
there?
And I
Yes.
did not say that.
Yeah.
Did
So
not.
you take this validation principle that Dawn has mentioned, and you use that at the House of Friends.
We use it so often at the House of Friends. It's a basic principle that our volunteers use as they support our clients.
How
that
many
have
clients do
dementia.
you have?
We have 18 right now in
And
our
so on a
program.
given Thursday, 18 will come.
We have 18, we call them our participants in our program. We have at least an equal number of volunteers. So today, for instance, we had almost 40 people.
Wow.
So we have more
That's-
volunteers.
That's impressive, isn't it?
Very
Right.
impressive.
Well, I think it's impressive that her faith community, her congregation, had the courage to start something like
Yes.
this.
Well, Bethany is a church that embraces new things, and they look out at the needs in the community. So felt that this was a very important outreach to the community. And from the very beginning, from the visioning of this in 2003, it was envisioned to be an ecumenical program. And actually, the vision team included 4 churches and people from the whole community.
Yeah, so it was more than one congregation. It
Yes.
welcomed others to be a
Yes.
part of that.
And now we have volunteers that come from a number of faith communities, as well as the general community, as well as we have Hope Presbyterian and St. Thomas More Catholic Church. We call them our mission partners
Nice,
because they support us with personnel, in music, some monetary support, and volunteers and supplies.
I want to come back to the volunteers, what they experience.
yes.
But Dawn, you're on the board of an organization that really started a long time ago with the
Right.
vision of two very important people.
Right. I'm on the board of directors for an organization here in town called AGE, Austin Groups for the Elderly. And
Located where?
It's on the corner of 38th and Cedar in the old, now I'm going to mess this up, the Confederate Widows Home. That's what the building was originally built as. And Willie Kasurik and Bert Kruger Smith. about
Blessed
20
be Willie Kasurik.
Yes.
And Bert
and
Kruger
Bert
Smith.
Kruger Smith had a vision of having a place where caregivers could go and people could go and get everything that they needed if they were caring for an elderly person or if they had some sort of need for an older adult in the community. So without telling their spouses, about 20 years ago,
Get this, Susie. I
They-
don't know if you knew this. She told me.
they bought this building.
We're not recommending that, are
No,
you,
no. And set about creating this vision.
The two of them.
The
Bert
two of
Kruger
them
Smith and Willie Kasurik.
and Willie Kasurik.
And
They
there-
took out a loan.
And there
Yes.
was
And they
a-
met their note.
And there was a respite program
They're-
located there.
Yes, and
one
actually
time.
there is Elder Haven is one of the programs of AGE right now, and Elder Haven is the only licensed adult daycare.
But you
in
started some
Travis
programs
County.
way back then, 3
Eloise-
decades ago.
Eloise House, I believe, was
Eloise's
there
house was
also.
there. Many
Yes.
nonprofits that serve the elderly community today got their start in the AGE building.
And they spun off from that.
And they
is it?
spun off because they got too big.
Mm-hmm.
Family Elder Care, Meals on Wheels, Hospice Austin, the Alzheimer's Association,
Hmm.
all
Wonderful.
started out there. And now the building houses a variety of other kinds of nonprofit organizations. It's sort of a nonprofit incubator. And there's a real nice synergy in the building, in addition to some of the ghosts who haven't quite left the building yet. We get a ghost report every year. We do,
I
we
hope
do.
so.
Especially at this time of year.
Yes.
Let's validate that, all
Yes,
right?
well, they
Yeah.
do come in with their
Yeah.
machines, and they do tell us that there is energy in that building. But there is quite a nice synergy because there are newer nonprofits and people just starting out, and older nonprofits that have been there for a while, and so they can sort of mentor each other. It's just a real nice feeling in the building.
And our friend Eva Church, she is there.
Eva Church, I believe Eva, and she might pinch my nose if I get this wrong, but I think she and I are sisters. We're both Irish. My grandmother was born in Ireland. But she was on the founding board, I think, of AGE.
She's
and
much too young for that.
I
that's
know.
it.
And so she knew Bert, and we lost Bert a few years ago, and she knows Willie very well. And she has come full circle because now she is the director of the Caregiver Resource Center at AGE.
Yes.
And they're a part, as all of these groups are, of this workshop, this validation workshop.
Right.
And I want to make certain we emphasize that. So it's going to be
Right.
November 14th,
November 14th.
which is a Wednesday.
It's a Wednesday. It's from 9 until 4, and it will be presented by Vicki DeClercq Rubin. And can I give my telephone number if anybody wants more
Please do,
information?
yes.
They can reach me at 512-218-9555. And it's actually sponsored by the Grey Panthers.
Yes.
And so for those who are caregivers,
Mm-hmm.
this would be a wonderful opportunity to grow into being able to do, and you allowed me to describe you as doing ministry.
Right.
And caregivers are certainly doing ministry.
Absolutely. Well, it's the most basic thing that we have is communication, the ability to communicate with each other. And if a caregiver is struggling to communicate with their loved one who has dementia, they can come and learn some of these techniques. And what it does is it takes some of the stress off the caregiver,
Very much
because
so.
the person with dementia maybe won't be as anxious. Maybe they won't be as depressed. Maybe they won't be acting out as much because they're feeling as though they're still being heard and understood.
And in the respite program, in the House of Friends, and there are others also in the greater Austin area, we encourage not only caregivers of individuals with dementia to attend them, but we also encourage our volunteers.
Yes.
Because volunteers in a respite program, allowing time out for family members, they are caregivers as well.
Yes.
So,
You know, I think your story, Susie, is just so powerful, because I know watching Austin Faith Dialogue, there are people who are dealing, Dawn, with that whole idea of change, of dementia and
Yeah.
Alzheimer's. And I told you before we came on the air that, you know, one of the fears that I have is ever having to walk that road. And that whole idea of losing one's ability to be in control of oneself.
Right.
And yet you said something to me.
I know.
And you know, you said to me, how dare you say that to me? But you said to me, you're embracing the aging
Right.
process.
I have
Now tell me
found-
about that.
Well, having walked with my parents through their decline in health, being a member of an Alzheimer's support group at St. Matthew's Episcopal Church, hearing actually Chuck Myers speak,
Oh, another
Reverend Chuck
blessed
Myers,
Mary. Oh,
yes.
What a dear he was. Yeah.
I had come from sort of this medical concept of medicine could solve everything. And I have grown comfortable with aging.
You know, but that's important. We do live in a culture that believes we can solve every issue, right?
Right.
And you know, when your mother and father said, don't come, you could have said, what do you mean don't come? I'm your daughter, I'm coming. And even though you didn't know the principles of validation, you said, okay, I can work it out when my kids are on spring break.
Right.
I think that Dawn, you know, she was recognizing even then
Right.
how
That's the
intuitive
basic
she was.
respect and
Yeah.
empathy.
And it is, I think we also have to acknowledge what feels right for us.
That's right.
But validation, I must admit, is a hard concept. because it goes against this basing everybody in reality
Right.
and knowing what is happening now.
We have to suspend reality
Yes.
to be able to
What do you
validate.
mean,
much so.
suspend reality?
We
Dawn?
have to go where the person with dementia is, and many times they're not in reality. I talk to them.
In our reality.
They're not in our reality. In their mind's eye, they see themselves somewhere else, doing something else, maybe sitting in a rowboat on a lake, and that's where they really may think they are.
And so for caregivers watching this program and they want to validate, you're saying to them,
Get
go,
in the rowboat.
Go to the boat.
Yes, get in the rowboat with your loved one.
And I'll come with you
Yeah.
is really how you want to answer it.
And when they do that, Susie, Don, what happens to that relationship?
Oh, it's amazing. The responses that they can get. Like I said, the individual may calm right down, because they know this person loves me, they're listening to me. And
from there, you can begin to move into another subject. Perhaps you can't really.
right. Well, you may start to
Go.
reminisce about, do you
Right.
remember when we used to go fishing
Right.
on the lake, at
And
the
that's really,
lake house?
they want to develop, it's really about relationship and
and connecting, yes.
Very much so, which goes into these respite programs. Where we talk a lot about community in that. And Dawn, when she works with clients and families, is developing, again, a relationship or a
Right.
sense of community. And all studies that have been done recently show that as we age, it's the connections with others that make a difference, and especially with dementia.
You mentioned faith communities that support the House of Friends.
Yes, yes.
Those volunteers who come,
Yes.
what do they receive from it? Quickly, what do they receive? Because
Well-
I'm going to have to say goodbye, and I don't want
Yes.
to say
Oh, no.
goodbye.
Well, in most of these programs, and ours in particular, they are faith-based. So we come with a sense that God is there with us, and that
that's perfect.
we are in turn, from the gifts that we receive, we are giving back to God.
Oh, Susie, Don,
So there
thank
is
you.
a lot of joy.
Thank you.
Well, you are God's presence in the world, and for you of the Austin Faith Dialogue community, we thank you for being here with us. For we are validated by you, and we want to validate you wherever you are in your journey of life. And so may you know that presence of the divine with you, and may you know that we share life together in community. Thanks for being with us on Austin Faith Dialogue. Blessings and peace to you as you are validated by God.